Terraforming is one of those features in Stellaris that tends to be overlooked. It is expensive, it takes a lot of time, and there are a lot of technologies to offset any sort of issues with habitability, which makes the terraforming aspect somewhat impractical. Still though, with the advent of the 3.2 patch as well as aquatics, mechanics have been added into the game to make terraforming a little bit more attractive. This has to do with the new aquatics systems where a aquatic species does better on a ocean world, but also a slew of new events that have been added to the game to facilitate a better terraforming experience. Consider this to be a light overhaul, if you will, on the terraforming system. And today we're going to dive into the murky depths that is this particular aspect of Stellaris that I feel needs a time in the spotlight. Terraforming planets comes in all sorts of shapes and sizes, kinda how like planets come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. If we go to any random planet that is within our range, we have the opportunity to terraform, at least as long as we have the terrestrial sculpting technology. You can find this either in the tech tree or through a variety of events where it can become available. Regardless though, once we start terraforming, there is a lot of stuff that is not properly explained. And for instance, there's a differences in cost. As you can see here on our screen is that the cost between this particular type of terraforming is significantly more expensive than this type of terraforming. And there is also a timer difference involved there. That has to do with the type of planet that you are terraforming to. Stellaris has three general categories of planet. You've got the dry, you've got the wet, and you have the cold. If you terraform from a wet to a wet type of planet, say a continental world to a ocean world, the terraforming cost will be significantly cheaper. If you go into any of the other categories, say a arid or to a Arctic world, it will be significantly more expensive as well as more time consuming. Now there are multiple ways to offset this. There is a wide variety of technologies as well as options that you can have. For instance, the World Shaper Ascension perk reduces the cost of any terraforming by 25%. If you have hydrocentric, any ocean world terraforming, which is something that I have in this particular setup, is also reduced by 25%. Climate restoration allows you to terraform tomb worlds to any world, as well as terraform worlds that are already colonized. The Secrets of the Ba'ol Planet Empire modifier also reduces terraforming costs quite significantly, even though if you're running with that one, you can just terraform any planet for free into a Gaia world on the fly. So whether or not that is a good thing or not that you get that bonus is a whole different question, but that is something to keep an eye on. There's also differences in speed, for instance. You can have the terraforming gases modifier enabled, which reduces the speed of the terraforming process by 50%, which can be quite extensive, but of course costs a certain amount of gas to activate. You can also have some ruler traits that have effects on this. Or you have galactic community resolutions that also have negative effects on this. Specifically, ecological protection resolution number 5 increases terraforming cost. Looping back to the cost side of things, increases cost by 100%, which makes terraforming extremely expensive endeavor. Now, when you start terraforming a planet, you will find yourself, first of all, out of money. You will start the terraforming process, and you can go ahead and click away and see the terraforming in the outliner in the bottom of the screen. If you don't have it, go to the outliner options and actually have terraforming enabled, and you can move it up and down depending on what your specific requirements are. There are also special types of barren worlds, which are terraforming candidates. Basically, planets like Mars are terraforming candidates, and they're essentially barren worlds that you can turn into livable worlds, which is something that you can keep an eye on and is a pretty fun thing to have. Basically, in systems where you have these planets, they can be really difficult to track after you find them, which is why you can go to the expansion planner and they will be listed here as a terraforming candidate, and then you can easily find them by, for instance, clicking onto the go to button, which in this particular case would take us to Trappist. I can also give a nice example here of terraforming from a wet world to another wet world. So the tropical world here, once again, there's a cost of only 2,000. Yeah, the continentals and wet worlds and ocean worlds fall into the same category, which is rather nice and something to keep in the back of your head. There's also such things as terrible modifiers on planets. So for instance, if we go to our expansion planner here and we try to figure out hazardous weather, for instance, if we terraform this particular planet, Soju 2, the hazardous weather modifier will be removed, and essentially we no longer have that habitability issue, we no longer have that happiness issue, but we also lose the energy credits modifier from jobs, which is very unfortunate, but it's something that you're going to need to deal with. Now, once you've actually terraformed the world, and we can just quickly jump into the future to show what happens here, for instance, with planet Kazon 3, which is clearly not named after a Star Trek species that was clearly underdeveloped from a story perspective. Essentially, we can just finish terraform here, and this planet will automatically turn into the planet that we would want it to be, and we have the chance of a event happening. Now, obviously, we'll get a nice little animation here, and as you can see, the high gravity modifier is still here, which is one of the ones that is always there, even if you terraform, but still, there are some events that can pop up. Now, the events themselves are rather curious, because, let's put it this way, there is a 75% chance that terraforming a world will allow you to get to a event. There's currently about 12 to 13 of them. One of them is particularly special, and we'll go to that one a little bit deeper. But let's go through some of these examples of things that can happen. You have Engineered Beauty, where essentially you get a special modifier to your planet, which increases amenities plus 10, which basically means that you will have higher happiness on your planet. Superfluous terraforming equipment can give you the opportunity to add an industrial district to your planet, or if you're a Gestalt, you can have a city, hive, or nexus district. Terraforming Complications, which is a negative modifier, which adds an additional bunch of terraforming blockers, which is highly unfortunate. A Helpful Blemish is a really nice one, where if a planet was terraformed from a tomb world, there's only a 10% chance of it triggering, you can get a special thing on your planet called a Fuming Bog, as well as a large amount of energy credits, and you basically get a free gas mine out of it, which is rather fun. There are a lot of these. One of the most useful ones is Access to Success, where you have the option of adding additional districts to your planet, such as generator districts, mining districts, agricultural districts, etc. There's a lot of really cool things that you can do with this. There's also a bunch of negative ones, such as a Planetary Gambit one, where your planet becomes tidally locked, but you do have the opportunity to get a special infrastructure decision, even though you get less agricultural mining districts, where essentially you can get, after triggering this decision, get 6 additional generator districts, which is pretty darn crazy, plus a 30% extra modifier on energy jobs, which is one of the better events that starts out super negative. And of course, you can have your planet turn into a Gaia world, you can have your planet turn into a Hive world. There are a whole slew of these particular things. However, at the end, there is also one very special one that I am not going to spoil here. You will have to find it yourself. Still, I will send you the prerequisites, and you can find out what happens here. It's called Weapons Cache. It is usually found on a tomb world. There's a 7% chance of it triggering, a 50% chance of it triggering if the tomb world was Earth. You get an archaeological site out of it, which means you need ancient relics. But that's all I'm going to say about that particular event chain, because oh boy. Still though, with all of this, terraforming by itself can be super powerful. Having the ability to modify your planet through terraforming, as well as with the events, gives you the flexibility to do what you want. Of course, if you are aquatic, wanting to have oceanic worlds everywhere is a really good thing to have, because then you will get the modifiers from aquatic and all the bonuses that come with that. So keep an eye on this. Try to terraform if you have the opportunity, because making things better for your species is always good. Of course, if you can turn them into Gaia worlds because you're running Ba'ol, it's even better because it's free pops and it's a Gaia world as well, and it's basically the best thing that can happen. I hope that this was interesting to you and that you've learned something today regarding the mechanics behind terraforming. It is a little bit of an obscure mechanic, as I mentioned, with all the habitability bonuses that you can get through technology, so it's kind of left by the wayside these days, but still it's something that the developer is currently trying to improve and trying to get a little bit of a more fun experience around, and that's essentially. If you have any questions or any suggestions regarding the terraforming process, for instance, you would like to mention that there is a super rare event chain called the Stellarian terraforming knowledge, which has some of the best terraforming modifiers in the game, even though they're part of federations. Feel free to mention that below, because I'm looking forward to see your comments on that. In addition to that, thank you for my patrons for making today's video possible, and if you enjoyed this, go check out yesterday's video that I did regarding the new disaster system that is coming towards Stellaris. Click the link right in front of you, and I'll see you there. In the meantime though, until next time, take good care of yourself, and make sure you terraform those worlds.